Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I just keep having technical difficulties after another, so I'm finally back in my college dorm after the crazy snowstorm stuff. I have a new microphone, I got everything fixed, and now I realize that my microphone has weird settings and it picks up a lot of background noise, so another technical difficulty that's going to have to get worked out throughout the week. But regardless, we're back on the channel, and like I said, I have a new microphone, so I'm really happy that I get to talk into a little microphone, and it's fun and it's great. But we're back. In today's video, we're ranking every single January film. These are the 10 films I watched in January. There are some that I missed and some that I will be talking about at the end of the year after I watch them on streaming. There is one film on this list that I did not do a review for on my channel. I was thinking about doing it as a short because it's not really a movie I was all that interested to talk about, but I just decided not to do it in general, just skip it. So I'll talk about it a little bit more in depth when we get into it, but regardless, I watched 10 films, 10 new release films in January of 2026, and we're going to talk about those today and rank them from the worst to best. So, if you're new around here, go down into the description where you can find the original 2026 ranked list in my Letterboxd. I have tons of other lists there, and eventually that 2026 ranked list is going to include all of my films from every single month, and at the end of the year, we're going to do a big long video where I rank every single film. So, if you're excited for that, stick around on the channel, and without further ado, let's just get right into the list. Coming in at number 10 is going to be Return to Silent Hill. This was one of my most anticipated of the entire year, and it was a absolutely substantial disappointment to pretty much every single core of my being. As somebody who really appreciates the original Silent Hill 2 and has grown to love the Silent Hill 2 remake over the last few years that it's been out, I have to say Return to Silent Hill was not only the most disappointing film I've seen in a very long time, but is the most insulting film I've probably ever watched. Return to Silent Hill forgets every single fundamental amount of nuance that the initial Silent Hill 2 video game has, and instead offers a story that is loosely adapted from the original vision of the game in a way that is significantly less interesting, not visually appealing, and in general is just a worse retelling of the source material. This is a bad adaptation, but it also is a fundamentally boring and drawn out and terrible movie, so I would not recommend touching this one with a 10-foot pole, and the only reason I gave it a 1.5 star on initial watch is it got 1 star from me for having a little bit of an idea and not being like the worst movie I've ever seen, and the extra half star was simply because I actually thought Jeremy Irvine was a decent James Sunderland, even though the script he was given was absolutely atrocious. So there's something at least decent about it, but this movie is an instantly big no pass from me. I will never watch this again, and yeah, it's bad. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Mercy. This is the Chris Pratt, Rebecca Ferguson AI crime thriller that came out in theaters. It's an Amazon film, and to be frank with you, this movie is pretty much just War of the Worlds 2. It is literally the same concept of a screen to life where you have a male protagonist doing things on a computer to solve some kind of case. But in this instance, instead of it being based on a novel about, aliens coming down to Earth and then they have to use the Amazon drone to save the day, and it's absolutely atrocious, this movie has a few perks that War of the Worlds didn't have, with A, being Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson are actually good actors, unlike Ice Cube, who is completely unable to sell the dire situation that he's in. On top of that, this movie was not filmed during COVID, so it doesn't rely entirely on fake like CGI and over zoom like camera lenses, and it actually has really interesting, well done graphics to use for the computer monitors. And I actually find that if I would have seen this movie in 3D, where I could appreciate the graphics moving on the screen a little bit more, I could have even have had a little bit more fun with this film than the movie at my number 8 slot. That being said, though, where Mercy does struggle is in its internal plot. Even though there are some good plot twists to keep you engaged, this movie is very much a generic action film with very little of an interesting twist on anything unique that makes it pretty much predictable and unwatchable a second time. On top of that, the undertone of this film, talking about AI and its ethicality in modern society, is very, I would say, drab and just not really, like, I just don't like the message, and I think that a lot of people can agree with what I'm saying, that it's not a good message to be pushing in film. And I'm shocked that Chris Pratt even took up doing a film like this, considering what he has said about AI in interviews and stuff like that. So, paycheck must have been nice for this one, but yeah, Mercy is still going to be a big thumbs down for me. I gave this one a 2-star. At number 8, a film that I very ever so slightly enjoyed more than Mercy is going to be Amazon Prime's The Wrecking Crew. This is, like I said, another Amazon Prime film. This is Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa as these Hawaiian brothers, which I thought was weird because Dave Bautista's, I don't think he's Hawaiian, but regardless, they're brothers, they're Hawaiian, and they live on this in Hawaii, and they go to solve this case of their father, who was a kind of shady detective that got killed, and they didn't really like him that much, but he gets killed in the line of duty, and it's assumed that there's some kind of bigger conspiracy, and they go to stop it. And they have to learn to like each other, even though they have an estranged relationship. And there's some interesting ideas with that. But the big caveat for me with this film was that Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa, I have grown to know as kind of more comical actors, where Dave Bautista's character in Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax, is a very much silly and fun actor. And there are instances where he has done more serious stuff, like Dune and Dune Part 2. He's a very serious villain in those. And he really does a great job in both of those films. But when I see him, especially without heavy makeup on, I anticipate him to be a bit more comical, and Jason Momoa especially is an actor that I associate with things like the Minecraft movie from last year and Aquaman. So he's not really an actor that I'm expecting to pull a super serious performance, and I think that's what really took me out of The Wrecking Crew. On top of that, the other thing that took me out of this movie was the physics of the fight sequences. I think the guns don't really have any recoil in this film, and I don't know if it was supposed to show that both of these actors are just overtly muscular, or if it was just really bad set design, but none of the guns have any recoil. And on top of that, the script is filled with a bunch of hard, strong language, lots of, like adult language is said in this film, and the film is not really all that R-rated when it comes to the action or the violence in it, so the fight sequences don't really mesh well with how gritty they make the writing, and it's a weird blend that doesn't really work that well for me personally. This was the film that I didn't make a review for on my channel because I didn't really have that much to say about it. Like, that, I pretty much just summarized it there, so that's pretty much all I have to say about that one. I gave The Wrecking Crew a 2.5 star. It could go down to a 2-star by the end of the year. I will say I might prefer Playdate, the Amazon Prime film from last year of the similar, like, buddy cop kind of formula, because it doesn't take itself as seriously, and I could see myself rewatching it just to have a good laugh with it, but I don't think either of them are very good movies, so Wrecking Crew, 2.5 star. Coming in at number 7 is going to be The Plague. This is a movie that I saw a lot of people really, really enjoyed, and I think that if I was at a different point in my life, or if I was kind of raised in a different environment, I could have very much seen this movie raising significantly higher for me on my list. But as it stands, I gave The Plague a 3-star, and my big critiques with this film are A, the pacing. I find this movie is extremely slow. I was constantly on the edge of my seat the entire film, expecting something massively major to happen in the body horror or just like psychological horror elements of the film, and the movie never really reaches a climax with all of the crescendo that it gives you towards it that felt all that satisfying and really paid off how tense I was for most of the movie. On top of that, calling this movie a body horror movie is a very, very loose term because there's not really any, like, massive amounts of body horror other than just a kid with a rash. So if you call a rash body horror, then maybe that's what it is. But overall, I didn't think this movie was really scary. It was just a really interesting experience, kind of deep dive into adolescence and adolescent behavior. So if you were somebody who was bullied back in middle school and high school, and that kind of shaped who you are today, or if you're at a point in your life where you're kind of aging out of your middle school and high school years and you need a experience, like a movie experience that kind of gives you that nostalgia and shows you what it kind of felt like and gives you a little bit of that kind of moment in your brain, then maybe you'll get something more out of this. But for me, I wasn't really nostalgic for any of that kind of stuff, so it didn't really impact me the way it needed to. I will say the acting performances and the shot composition in this film are simply just brilliant and wonderful. So if you're a film nerd like I am, you'll at least get a lot out of that. But overall, I just enjoyed The Plague. I didn't love it and I didn't hate it, so I gave it a 3-star. Coming in at number 6 is going to be Primate. This is the kind of ape-like slasher film. I've been struggling to come up with a term to call Primate because it's not really a slasher because he's not like it's not like a person. It's not really a creature feature because you're not dealing with a monster. So I don't really know what Primate is, but you have this ape that is like a family pet, and then it gets rabies, and then it starts killing people, and that's the plot of the movie. And for all intents and purposes, the gore physics look really good in this movie. Like there's some really good practical effects in terms of the gore, where the ape like rips people's skin off, and it looks good. There's also instances of really interesting shot composition when you'll see like Ben the ape like through like a glass door that's kind of like, it's not like clear, it's like patterned, I guess, and it looks really good, and there's a lot of fun lighting. But the big standout to me was the score. I thought the score in this film was super fun. It's directed by the same guy who did The Strangers Prey at Night, which in my opinion is the best of the Strangers franchise because it doesn't take itself super overtly seriously, and it has a fun little 80s score, or 80s inspired score, I should say. And that is exactly what happens here in Primate. Good practical effects, new actors who aren't the same faces you see in every other movie. Even though they're not incredible, it's still good to see new faces. And as I said, that 80s score absolutely carries all of the tension in pretty much every sequence. So if you just want to see some cool carnage candy, check this one out. It's not an incredible movie. I gave it a 3.5 star, but it's solid for what it is. Coming in at number 5 is going to be The Rip. This is the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon cop crime thriller that came out on Netflix at the beginning of the year. And this is a solid little crime thriller. If you're looking for kind of a cop movie to just kind of sit down with and have fun, this is a decent one. I think the twist is pretty interesting. I think the moral implications of the characters is interesting. I think the setting is overtly pretty cool. I love Matt Damon, I love Ben Affleck for the most part, and I love Steven Yeun especially. I think all three of them have really good like acting chemistry together, especially of course Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. So if you love those two actors or any of those three actors, you're going to have a good time with this film because they share the majority of the screen time, I would say. And in general, I think this is just a decent little action thriller. It's probably the only movie on here I don't have much to say about because if I talk too much about it, I'm going to spoil too much. So if you enjoy cop movies, you enjoy action thrillers, check this one out. It's on Netflix, and it deserves a watch. I gave this one a 3.5 star. Coming in at number 4 is going to be a movie I did not expect to make it this far on my list, is Dead Man's Wire. I went into this movie skeptical, thinking, yeah, it'll probably be a decent little fun film, but it's not going to be incredible. And I walked out, and I was like, wow, that was very artsy, very unique, and just a really fun time at the theater. I will admit it is a little bit of a slow burn, so if you're not into the slower paced films that have much more deliberate camera work to kind of just show you the stakes and really get you immersed into the world, then you might not get a lot out of this. But what Dead Man's Wire does offer in the other like way to keep you entertained is really quippy and fun dialogue for how tense the situation is. So you have this, it's based on a true story of a man who kidnapped like a loan agent, like the son of the loan agency like owner, and held him hostage for 63 hours or something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. And I won't get into the true story too much because it's a whole lot, but the film, it takes a little bit more of a fun kind of quippy approach to it that's very much inspired by like older 70s films, and I actually think that works really well for this type of story because at the end of the film they show real clips of the event, and then I went home later that night before recording my review to watch some clips of the event, and the characters, or the real people I should say rather, the actual gunman and the person kidnapped do actually have a bit of banter between themselves. They don't really take the actual dire circumstance all that seriously, and the people around them don't even take it that seriously. Bill Skarsgård, Dacre Montgomery, and Coleman Domingo are absolutely fantastic in this film. Some of their best performances I've seen in a long time. Bill Skarsgård, it's very hard to isolate him from Pennywise for me because that was one of my first horror films and it's just kind of ingrained in my brain now. But in general, I really enjoyed this film. I think acting, great film. So check that one out. I gave it a 4-star on initial watch. Alright, we're in the top 3 now, and on a list of 10 things, it's pretty much the moment where it gets to the really good stuff. So coming in at number 3 is going to be Markiplier's Iron Lung. I have been pretty much championing this movie since the beginning, before it even came out, all the way back like 3 years ago when this movie got announced. I have been rooting for this movie to be good, and for me, this movie does everything it needs to do for an Iron Lung movie. Like, I wasn't really anticipating an Iron Lung movie to wow me all that much, but when I heard that Markiplier was making it kind of this art house film that had the most fake blood ever used in a movie, it's like, okay, I'll probably get a lot out of this as just somebody who's interested in filmmaking. And for me personally, this movie is a little bit of a, like, it's more of a 3-star movie in terms of the actual, like, quality of the story and the writing and stuff like that. But the cinematography especially, but also just the implications this movie has for indie filmmaking, elevate it to another level that a lot of other movies this year will never reach. I think Iron Lung is one of the most gorgeous looking movies I've seen in a long time. I think every single shot and the way it's composed and the way it's put on screen is absolutely super breathtaking. I think the audio design is ingenious, to be honest with you, even though I think some of the audio mixing could have been better. Now, I will say, if I watch this movie again with headphones on, I may not have the same sentiments about the audio mix, so I am really excited to get this one on a physical release whenever that comes out. But in general, I think Iron Lung is phenomenal. Markiplier, he did a great job acting. I think his directing is even better than his acting, so I hope to see him direct more films in the future. That would be wonderful. But in general, yeah, great film. Troy Baker, I can't think of the actress who did the Ava character. She's great in the film also, but special shout out to Troy Baker just because he voices my favorite video game character of all time, so shout out to Troy Baker. And yeah, I give Iron Lung a 4-star, so fun film. At number 2 is going to be Sam Raimi's Send Help. I just uploaded a review of this a few days ago because I didn't get to see the early screenings and had to go see it on opening night like everybody else. But regardless, I had a absolutely fantastic time. There were so many jokes in this that had me actually in tears, but then every time this movie would hit you with a jump scare to kind of apprehend you, that would also be genuinely terrifying. The acting performances from Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien are some of the best acting performances I've seen in a movie in a long time. Just in general, phenomenal. And Sam Raimi as a director is somebody who I wholeheartedly respect with everything in my body. And I have pretty much every single movie he's ever directed, I have thought the directing was the standout feature. But with Send Help, it is hard to choose what the standout feature is because this movie is so good. It is my favorite Sam Raimi film. I can easily admit that now after I reworked my Sam Raimi ranked list after thinking about it further. This is still my favorite Sam Raimi movie, just above Army of Darkness. And there's really nothing you can go wrong with Send Help. If you enjoy survival films, if you enjoy romance films, like rom-coms, if you enjoy comedies, if you enjoy horror, if you enjoy, like, dramas, literally any genre ever, you will have a good time with Send Help. I think this is a phenomenal film. I gave this a 4-star when I reviewed it initially, and then I went home, slept on it. I increased it to a 4.5-star. I had a great time with Send Help. It'll probably sit in my top 5 for a pretty long time this year, and then maybe the top 10 by the end of the year. It's great. I love Send Help, and I recommend pretty much everyone to go see this one. But coming in at number 1, a movie that I did not anticipate getting to number 1 on my list, but we are here, and here it is 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Coming off of 28 Years Later last year, I was very skeptical about this franchise. I thought that film was good, and just mainly because I'm partial to zombie movies, but I didn't think it was anywhere near the level of that original film, even though it was a big upgrade from 28 Weeks Later. And my main issue with that film was that it felt very disjointed, like there was a lot of plot lines getting added that didn't really level out to anything, but I also went into it knowing that it was going to be a trilogy, and I was like, kind of give it some slack for that because I expected them to follow it up well. And they sure did, because 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple is one of the best movies we are probably going to get in 2026 in general. This movie is almost flawless, especially the last 40 minutes, which are some of the most captivating cinema I've ever seen, and by far the most captivating zombie cinema I've ever seen. And what's shocking is that Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake by Zack Snyder, I believe, was my favorite zombie film of all time, and this has officially dethroned it. So, shout out 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. But seriously, though, Ralph Fiennes delivers one of the most incredible acting performances you will see this year, up there with Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien in Send Help, some of the best acting you'll see this entire year. There's also, all of the other actors are incredible here. The cult leader, I'm struggling with thinking everybody's name, but the Jimmy character, the cult leader, is great. Spike's actor, the young actor, is also incredible. just everybody is spectacular in this movie, and even from beginning to end, this movie is captivating, but especially those last 40 minutes have so much payoff for them, especially for Dr. Kelson and Samson throughout the movie, that it's just such a spectacle of a zombie film. So if you like zombie movies and you're in the horror space, I don't know what you're doing not watching 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. I gave that one a 4.5 star walking out of the theater, and I said in my initial review for it on Letterboxd that if I got this movie on Blu-ray and watched it again in like a binge right after the first one, it could easily boost up to a 5 star as probably my favorite zombie film of all time forever. So there you go. There's my top 10, or I guess my only 10 list of 2026 in January. January was overall a pretty mixed month with, I would say, 4 films that were actually like pretty fantastic from this month, and then the latter half, the other 6 being a mixture of decent to just really bad movies. So I will say, if you're interested in any of these films, they're worth watching, because none of them, I would say, are like absolute trash that doesn't deserve to exist on this plane of existence. But if you get an itch to watch any of them, go check them out. And that's going to do it for me. I don't have much else to say. I hope you all enjoyed. If you're new around here, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And you can check out the reviews for literally every single one of these movies, except for The Wrecking Crew. I didn't get around to doing one for that one. But all the other movies, I have longer, much more drawn out reviews for on the channel. So if you're curious on my bigger, wider picture thoughts on them, you can check them out there. And that's going to do it for me. Expect some big things at the end of the week. I'm going to see Dracula and Whistle this week. I'm skipping out on Strangers Chapter 3 after the failure of Chapter 2. So I'll do that at the end of the year and talk about that one when I watch it on streaming. But if you're curious about Dracula or Whistle and you saw those on your upcoming, I'll have a video on both of those out over the weekend so you can get your initial thoughts on it. And I'm also going to do a video talking about the Fallout TV series because the finale airs this week, I believe. If not, I will postpone it until the week after. But if it is the finale this week, then expect a video on the Fallout TV series in the next 2 weeks, because I want to do a big deep dive on that because it is fantastic and I'm really enjoying it. So with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.